let me tell you a story. I was on location in Limpopo last year. I mean, on vacation. I took a little break. I have a cousin who has a lakeside B&B lodge. It was really beautiful, with the monkeys and everything. And so like families come there and they picnic. So this Mashangan family were leaving, you know. And then the guy came up to me with his family, 2 girls and a boy about 11 years old. And he said, oh, my son, yes, he was so excited. You know, my son was so excited, you know, and said to me, Dad, isn't that yellow-bone uncle who plays the trumpet? But he was saying it very proudly. And I said, you let your son call people yellow bones? You know, are you sick? You know, we're trying to fight a situation where your people, you know, before the so-called Makwerekwere came, you were the Makwerekwere. You know, how do you feel if, like, I told you my son was, isn't that a Makwerekwere uncle who does? I mean, what's the matter with you? As a society, Africans, we need major therapy. But we can't get that therapy if we don't own ourselves, and we don't own our continent, and we don't own... we're still buying. We're buying from the people who enslaved us. We buy everything from them. And we work very hard to try and look like them. So we're psychologically wounded. Wounded.
Is this where the Hugh Masekela Heritage Foundation comes in?
Every old person, 85 and over, should be interviewed. Because we have no historical content in our lives. Every family, Sibisi, there's a Sibisi person or 2 or 3 who can trace the family history 500 years through the praise poetry. And there's people there who know, and those things, that information should go into databases. And we should reteach and relearn our languages.
With the latest Fees Must Fall, there was a young student who was carrying a sign that says, we're coming for the land, but first.
Yeah.
What do you make of the signage like that?
I don't. You know, I mean, we grew up in a time when we were focused against one thing. It was overall apartheid. You know, and it united the world in our favor. Because the whole world was against apartheid, you know. Because it was really, you didn't have to explain it, it was just wrong, you know. And that's all that we won, you know. We on paper, we got rid of apartheid, but it didn't go away, you know. So my point is that the bigger picture has been ignored. You know, when Mandela came in, they promised South Africa all kinds of things, you know, and we haven't even gotten to like stage 1 on the promises, you know. So apartheid in itself, and then our people of European origin tell us we shouldn't complain about the past, you know. Hey, you know, I mean, the Jewish people remind us, you even touch like a Jewish hair and they go crazy. And they remind you of the past, you know, of Hitler and all that. But people are saying we shouldn't remember Hitler. So it seems like different values for different ethnic groups in the world, you know.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is like the compartmentalized struggles, I understand that they have to happen. But we are still an oppressed people, you know. So like it should be like, I think that as a people we should look at the overall problem, you know, and like even look at the overall problem of Africa, how it's been fragmented. The fact that we're living in borders that are only 130 years old and we fight each other over them is one of the biggest jokes.
I'm very interested in your art and activism. We were just doing a story about Babes Odumo coming up with this song called Mercedes, and it went back to the topic of, are there still messages within music?
You know, the responsibility of activism was assigned to artists without the consultation. It's just assumed that artists are supposed to be the ones at the forefront of speaking against injustice. But it's incumbent upon everybody to speak against injustice. And those who don't, perpetuate it. Period.
On the musical front, what do you make of the 90-10 quota by the SABC? Is it working?
I don't know, I don't listen to the radio.
Is it beneficial for an artist?
I hope so. I hope so if it's being done, you know, because we ourselves in our music is so mixed up that like you can play 90% South African music, I mean South African musicians without the content being African. You know, because so many of us are imitating music, you know, stuff from other countries. And we're only known for it here because where the people are imitating are not listening to it, they don't play our music. But again, it's a small segment of our problems, you know, the music. The thing is that our lives are not, our music will never be right. People will never be able to learn or excel in the arts, and especially in the African arts, unless we own our environment and we are able to like teach people properly. You know what I mean? And the schools, they train musicians and singers and dancers, but when they come out of there, there's no jobs because there's nowhere to play in South Africa. In conclusion, the thing people like should try and remember is that this world belongs to all of us, and that's how we should think. The continent we live in especially is ours, but the world belongs to all of us. And we should try and start selling things to the world instead of buying their things, because we've got them. But we think that our stuff is backward and primitive and savage and hidden and all those things. So as a result, the colonial minded people, which is like the people who still own Africa, don't have to worry about us because we take care of them. We have their back in the African world. We oppress the Africans for them so that the status quo can remain. As we get in Africa.